Welcome back. And so we move on to the next leg of our conversation, which is politics, this time of a different nature within the ivory towers, as Kari said earlier. So the process of appointing a university vice chancellor should be seamless, right? It shouldn't, cause any hullabaloo within the polity. But it appears that, it's a departure from the norm in the University of Abuja with recent events in the last couple of days. And we have joining us to have this conversation to bring us clarity about what exactly is happening. We have Professor Ralph Akinfeleye, former chairman, head of UNILAG Mass Communication Department. He's also representing Africa on the Governing Council of the World Journalism Education Congress. And currently, Professor Akinfeleye is on the governing board of the University of Abuja. Good morning, sir, and thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yes, indeed. And we also have joining us from our Abuja studio, via Zoom rather, Professor Abubakar Umar Kari. He's the Dean, Student Affairs, University of Abuja. And Professor Kari, thank you for joining us on the program. Naturally, I'll start with you. Since you are in the University of Abuja, you give us, an aerial view of what exactly is happening. But I also want you to speak specifically to two issues while you're doing that. A statement put out by the university has said that, the reports about harassment of journalists has been exaggerated, but we have reports that our own correspondent was harassed when they came to cover, the events in the University of Abuja just a couple of days ago. And also perhaps you want to tell us how true it is that there will be a meeting by the acting vice chancellor with Senate members where she's supposed to be lobbying to extend her tenure.
Thank you for having me. Good morning, Nigerians. I think you have asked a couple of questions. I don't know from where to start.
You can start with any that you choose. Start from anyone, sir. Okay, we'll get back to Professor Kari when the network is more clement. Let's come to the studio now, Professor Akinfeleye. Give us an insight into what really goes into the appointment of the Vice Chancellor of the university and why, this is different, the case of University of Abuja.
Well, thank you very much for that question. But before I go on to elaborate, I want the whole world to know that we, the so-called progressive on the council, we have written a minority report. We are not supporting anybody, any candidate. We are not also opposing any candidate. But we are based with the standing 4 pillars of the present administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. 4 pillars. 1, transparency, accountability, due process, rule of law, and not law of the rule. Therefore, we are guided by those 4 principles, and we must follow it to the logical conclusion. And that's why it appears to me that the University of Abuja, if you may allow me, stinks with reckless disregard to due processes, and have examples that I will tell you briefly. Let's start. We made a divided university. And the last administration of the university was very clever in divide and rule. At our inauguration, there was tension all over. In fact, we didn't meet at the University of Abuja campus. We met in an hotel because ASU was on strike. And the Senate representative on the council were selected by the previous administration, including the acting vice chancellor. And as we said, we cannot go forward. There's a litigation in the court by some professors challenging the process of election of those internal members of council and also appointment of an acting vice chancellor. As we were meeting, the current election that was happening, they came in, we said, we cannot talk to you because there's a case in court. But luckily for us, at the end of the day, court ruled that they can be admitted. Okay, we started with them. And during that process, ASU was on strike for 83 days. We had some students who were receiving lectures. Many other students were not receiving lectures. They were outside there selling coconut and oranges and watermelon. And yet they must graduate at the same time. The lecturers were divided into two, pro and con. Through the help of God and through the instrumentality of the new council, the 10th council, we were able to persuade ASU to return to work. After 83 days, they returned to work, and everything has been very peaceful. We were lucky. We said to ourselves, we have achieved something. Now for us to process, there was backlog of appointment and promotion. There were cases of indiscipline. There were cases where files of lecturers are missing. There are files where lecturers have been suspended and not paying their salary for months, and nobody is talking about that.
Spillover of work done by the last administration.
Yes. Now, coming back to the reckless disregard to due process, I start with some examples. I'm telling you what happened. I'm talking from level of understanding of what happened, and not theory. Eyewitness report I'm giving. One, we started with the appointment of the bursar. The bursar appointment started, but it was inconclusive by the last council members. So about 13 of them were invited, conducted interview. Federal character people were there to observe the proceedings. At the end of the day, federal character told us that we did very well and it was excellent performance. So everybody in the panel scored, and based on 100%. The highest scorer scored about 77.8%. The second scored 65 point something. And when we're presenting the result, some of the people in the university said that we should drop the highest scorer and take the second lowest scorer. And then we asked why. They said because that person is an insider. Then I told the chancellor, well, if you wanted an insider, why can't you write the government, say you do inside advert rather than external advert? We are not going to succumb to this violation of merit. Eventually, the highest scorer was appointed. Another violation came to the issue of appointment and advertisement for the vice chancellor. A letter was written by the immediate past vice chancellor to the Ministry of Education.
That's Professor Nala.
Nala, yes.
Yeah.
Wrote a letter to the Ministry of Education in the absence of no council. Can we advertise for the position of a vice chancellor, which normally to take 6 months? So a letter stated that at least a professor applying must have 10 years of being a professor. The letter was sent to the former Minister of Education, and they replied, the university, that they now shut down 10 to 5 years and never advertised by March 2024 for 5 years. It must be 5 years after being a professor.
Yeah.
So this was to settle the crisis within the institution,
yes,
where some lecturers are protesting and the others are for,
yes,
right? So
exactly.
to get somebody, outside the system,
yes, sir,
to be appointed as vice chancellor.
Yes. Now, the council now came out because of the agitation by ASU and some members that we should re-advertise. And I said, why? They said because that advert was done when the ASU was on strike. And the former VC did that one. Okay, we considered we want to advertise. So the council came in, tried to deliberate on how to advertise and what are the criteria. And I, Professor Ralph Akinfeleye, a member of the council, I raised a point of order. I said, Mr. Chairman, honorable council members, if you have applied or you plan to apply, please excuse us. When we were sending to criteria, nobody left. It was shocking to us after the thing has been advertised. And we were told that a member who did not go out during that, my point of order, applied. Can you be a judge in your own court, in your own case? Is it possible? So we were embarrassed. That is not following the due process. Then we are asked to set out the criteria. Before setting out criteria, a search committee was inaugurated. Initially, they wanted me to be the chair. I refused on point of contradictions. Then they appointed a council member, Mrs. Chisholm, to go out and search people, because that's part of the procedure. And they were delayed for almost 3 weeks. Why? Because no release of funds for them to travel. The chairman was glad enough, he was able to say to them, they went.
Right.
To all the geopolitical zones of Nigeria. They came back with their report. 10 people indicated interest, because we designed a form for them, indicated interest. And they were given 1 week to apply, to send their application, 30 copies. After the expiration of that 1 week, only 6 complied. Search committee gave their report. We were asked to add that 6 to the original number of 81 that we got before. We got 81 before from the first and second advert. And out of that 81, 21 from the University of Abuja. Then we added that 6. So now we have currently 87 applications, with 22 from the university.
Pardon me, Prof.
Yes.
Pardon me to butt in here. I'd like you to pause that trail of thought, because I understand that we have Professor Kari now.
Okay.
Just to get him to respond to the earlier question, then we'll come back to the work being done. So, Professor Kari, over to you now. The question that was put to you earlier on, and I know you've had the benefit of listening to Professor Akinfeleye as well. So I'd like you to speak to that quickly, so we can get to what exactly is happening right now, the controversy boiling at this point. Prof, over to you now.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm sorry for the technical glitch. Let me state from the outset that I am not the spokesperson of the University of Abuja. And therefore, there are certain issues that I'm not competent to answer, but I'll answer them to the best of my knowledge. You mentioned the issue of harassment of journalists. I don't think there was anything like that. I know that there was an unfortunate incident where some people invited journalists to the campus on Tuesday when there was supposed to be a Senate meeting. And on their way out, after covering the event, after conducting the interviews with the people that invited them, our local security people, for reasons best known to them, and I personally joined in scolding them, stop their bosses, your own boss, Channel TV and deflated their tires and asked them to wait. But the matter was later resolved. I do not think that constitutes harassment. Journalists are entering the campus all the time. As I'm talking to you now, there are a battery of journalists right now in front of the University of Abuja campus. Some of them are inside. They have come to cover some activities. That is by the way. It is also very important to state that I am a product of the University of Abuja. I graduated from there. I was a member of the pioneer set, and in the last 31 years, I have been almost wholly involved in the university. Therefore, with due respect to my senior colleague, Professor Akinfeleye, I should be able to discuss the politics of the university much more than him. There are certain claims that he made that are contradictory, and some of them, with due respect, are not exactly correct. But I'll begin with the minority report that he mentioned. It is very, very interesting for a minority report to come out when there is no majority report. To the best of my knowledge, the Governing Council of the University of Abuja is still in the process of appointing a Vice Chancellor. No decision has been taken on that. And therefore, it is unfortunate that somebody who's supposed to be part of the process decided, for reason best known to him, having called himself progressive. This is a council that comprises more than 10 members, and only 2 members call themselves progressives and broke run, to the consternation of the entire university. We believe that we expected much more from our senior colleagues in terms of adherence to the due process that he seriously canvasses for. That is one. Second, he mentioned about the university being divided by the former Vice Chancellor. I don't know the basis of that claim. There was a problem in the University of Abuja, just like there have been problems in other universities from time to time. And all these problems are usually resolved amicably or through the conventional techniques of industrial relations, like what ASU did by going on strike, and all the issues were resolved. It is also very important to mention that I serve as a member of the Governing Council of the University of Abuja between 2017 to 2021 for 4 years during the life of the 8th Council. And therefore, I'm very much familiar with the processes and procedures of appointing a Vice Chancellor. Therefore, some of the issues being raised or canvassed by Professor Akinfeleye are very, very much strange, like the issue of tenure professorship. It has no place in logic. It has no place in the law. The only 2 documents that regulate the appointment of a Vice Chancellor, of course, are the Universities Miscellaneous Act and the University of Abuja Act. And none of them prescribes 10 years as a precondition for a professor to apply. It is even self-contradictory to say that in the earlier advert of March 15, 2024, the number of years in the advert for a prospective candidate to apply was 5 years. In 2017, it was 5 years. And at that same period, 4 other universities also issued out advert for prospective candidates to apply. University of Maiduguri prescribed 5 years.
You can hear me, Professor Kari. Just quickly, let me come in there. What Professor Akinfeleye said was that the former VC wrote then to the former minister, the ministry at that time, asking that this be brought down to 5 years from 10. Are you aware of that?
That is not correct. That is not
correct.
That
is not correct? The former VC did not write?
No. What the Vice Chancellor wrote to the former minister was to ask for a permission to issue out advert for Vice Chancellor, not to specifically mention 5 years or 10 years. He was given the permission to do that. And in the advert that he issued, 5 years was the threshold. That one is correct. And just as I was saying, at that same period, Usmanu Amfodio University Sokoto issued out advert. There was no number of years. In fact, 6 different universities issued out advert this year with different number of years as a professor. So, and I want to challenge Professor Akinfeleye to dispute this. All this hoopla that he has raised was simply because the council refused to allow him to serve on the selection board. That was when he started crisscrossing around the media houses, and as a professor of mass communication, he wields a lot of influence. So he started crisscrossing media houses, complaining that as a professor, he should have been made a member of the selection board. But it is the prerogative of the council to decide who goes to the selection board. It is even unfortunate that he has ethnicized and regionalized that particular agitation. He's claiming that nobody from southern Nigeria has been put in the selection board. With due respect, in 2017, I'm from Bauchi State. I serve on the selection board. The second person on the selection board was Dr. Omar Darofi from Taraba State. Both of us from the Northeast. At that period, the people that emerged from the Senate were Professor Clement Chup from Plateau State and Professor Felicia Anumo from Kogi State. From the North Central, membership of the selection board.
Pardon me, Professor Kari. All right, some of those points are taken, and I need to mention, you said that deflating of our tires does not constitute harassment, if I got you correctly. I don't know what else will constitute harassment.
I said it was an unfortunate incident committed by people who are barely educated. University security people.
So has the university taken action against those people? What action was taken, and has an apology been officially issued?
I don't know about apology because, as I mentioned, I'm not a spokesperson of the university. But I know the people who did it have been reprimanded. One, they have been taken out of the gate and they have been queried because what they did is quite unfortunate. My first training was as a journalist. I was a reporter, I was a line editor, I was even an editor. So I know the implication of trying to stop journalists from...
Okay, Prof. We'll come back to that because our vehicle was damaged. Our
tripod was reportedly broken as well.
Exactly. Our colleagues were detained. But let me come to Professor Akinfeleye because he also raised some vital issues. Professor, let me just walk through some of the points Professor Kari raised. He talked about, the point you made about progressives, saying that there are only 2 progressives, people claiming to be progressives. He said that the university was not divided during the time or the tenure of a previous Vice Chancellor, that's Professor Abdurrashid Naala. He also said some of the issues you raised that are strange, talked about you were not happy, that council refused you serving on the selection board, talked about the influence you will, quite a number of issues, Prof. But please respond to them.
Well, I've listened to the professor.
And also the 5-year, the letter written, the 5-year issue as well.
I've listened to the professor and I laugh. I laugh because his submission is just a compilation of illogical inconsistencies. I am giving an eyewitness report. What is he talking about? That I am not elected as member. Do I have any gain? We are trying to support due process. We don't have any candidate we are supporting or we are not supporting. But it's going to be an embarrassment to the present administration for reckless disregard to due process and the rule of law, not law of the room. The professor, I can produce a document. I say I'm coming from a point of eyewitness report that Naaba wrote to the former minister saying that to apply, you must have 10 years of post-professorial rank. And the minister, former minister, replied 5 years. And when they want to advertise the current and second advert, they lower it down. That even a graduate assistant can apply. They're talking of distinguished, accomplished what?
For the post of a university vice chancellor, a graduate assistant.
Yeah, you can't because there's no limit. They didn't know whether you become a professor 1 year or 0 year. From 10 to 5 to now level 0. It's quoting one university of Danfodio. It's Abuja University of Danfodio or the Danfodio University of Abuja. If it's not Panadol, it's not Panadol. We are saying that there must be transparency and accountability on this issue. And there's a deviation from that. So, to say that I started writing that is a fallacy. I think professor is a brand. And when you attend that gather, you must be objective in what you say. Don't say you want to support issue that lacks sufficient credibility. I proved to this professor to tell me if during the second level of appointment of a bursar, somebody who scored 77.something%, we have to lower it and take second person who is from the university. Yes. So, in another one, another disobedience to reckless regard to due process is the issue of appointment of an acting registrar. There are 14 deputy registrars in the university. Some of them became deputy registrar 2010, 2011, 14, 15, 16. The VC came in and brought us an England who became deputy vice chancellor deputy registrar 2017, and that is raised objection. And the following day, the appointment was declared null and void. And the acting vice chancellor said we have no right, that the council has no right to appoint. That is not for our information. The following day, they did a U-turn. And I asked them to put it on the document that Professor Akinfeleye is opposed to appointment of an acting registrar who didn't follow credit, they didn't follow merit and seniority. And the petition was sent to us by a stakeholder who is a senior deputy registrar, complaining bitterly why should they start that. I asked them, your deputy registrar, are they appointed or they are given a position? They said, yes, they are appointed. Do they pass through the selection? He said, yes. Do they have any query? He said, no. Then why do you leave the most senior and you are taking the most junior? Is that not a violation of the rule of law? And the university is guided by the Miscellaneous Act of Section 3.3.
Right.
In the process of appointment, our long list was submitted, and we warned them that we have finished our job. The job now is for the joint Senate and Council board. They are not coming, they are board.
All right.
To do. And that's why they had crisis when they went there.
All right.
When they went there, they had crisis. Two of them had to work out on the meeting.
Oh,
and they're talking to. It says he's a journalist. I don't know whether it's a journalist of conscience.
Prof.
If it's a journalist of conscience, how can you destroy the? How do you want to padlock the air? The Senate people went there to cover the event. They were not violent, and you went out to embarrass them. His wife says his reporter, the commando people came in to the Senate and discharged and assaulted senior professors, seizing their telephone and that thing. I think that is, in my judgment, a blatant disregard to
All right, Prof, just before we go to Professor Kari, I'd like to ask: Would you love to serve on the governing council? Because he's saying that the reason why you're doing media rounds like this is the selection council, right? So would you love to serve on the selection council?
No, the selection board had been selected by the chairman.
So you have no interest whatsoever?
I have no interest.
Okay.
I have no interest, and the man is just saying things that lack surface credibility.
All right.
I think it's one of the people, in my judgment, that is trying to make the appointment of the vice chancellorship as a do or die affair, rather than a do and talk. We cannot discontinent and abuse the 4 pillars of this present administration. A letter was sent to us, according to them, by the Minister of Education, which is a manufactured letter, signed by one director, Mrs. Gigi Iluasu, that we should complete the assignment of appointment of registrar and that of VC within 7 days. It is not possible. It's not achievable. I know the minister, a gentleman, a highly professional person, a highly dedicated and meticulous, cannot want to interfere with the work of the council. It's a fallacy. I think they need to investigate this, Madam G.R. Ileusa, who signed this document. And the chairman told us it was
many
private.
more things that you have raised now, Professor. Thankfully, Professor Kari is here. Professor Kari, I would like you to respond to that. Don't forget to also speak to what Prof said about violation of merit in the appointment of Bursa and the appointment of deputy registrar.
Acting registrar.
Acting registrar. And now this letter that he's talked about, signed by one Madam Iliasu.
Iliasu, yes.
Professor Kari, over to you now.
Until it's a personal letter. Abba.
Professor Kari.
Well, if it's not coming, can I also ask that during the process of complaining, I asked, was this letter signed by the minister? Nobody gave me information. Was it signed by the permanent secretary? Nobody signed until when we got it in. And somebody said, one lie. One lie.
All right, Professor Kari is back now. Professor Kari.
Let me respond.
Go ahead, Professor Kari.
Please. Let me respond. Yes. Perhaps my senior colleague has become very, very emotional. He has said so many things that are not correct. First, in the simple advert that he was talking about, there was nothing like even a graduate assistant could apply. The very first requirement is that an applicant must be a professor. Must be a professor. I have the document here, dated August 15, 2024. So that's the first one. The second one, the appointment of the acting registrar. The first person the acting VC recommended was the most senior deputy registrar, Dr. Idris Othman Jibrin. But it was rejected because he has also applied for the job. And I can put it to the professor. I want him to contradict me that there is nothing in the University of Abuja Act that says it is necessarily the most senior deputy registrar who can act. And that was what the point the acting VC raised in council. And council now asks her to submit another name. And she submitted the name of Mrs. Islamiyat Abdrahim, who became deputy registrar again in 2018, 6 years ago, not a baby deputy registrar, as the professor has also said, which is also a fallacy, not true. And another error he made, whether deliberately or without knowing it, is that the letter from the Federal Ministry of Education was written exactly 2 weeks ago from today. So the ministry did not give the council 7 days to produce a vice chancellor. It gave them 15 days. And it may interest you to know that the Abubakar Tafawa Balewa University Bauchi produced...
Prof, hold on. Let Professor Kari land. Professor Kari, please land on your thoughts.
Yes. And I tell you that I serve on the governing council. I also serve on the selection board, when search has been concluded, it shouldn't take more than 7-10 days for appointment to be made, because all that remains now is to scrutinize the papers and come up with a short list of 3 and submit to council. So it is no big deal.
All right.
And on the letter itself, the letter was signed by the Director University Education, Hajia Rekia Iliasu.
All right.
And the letter specifically stated that she was directed by the minister. So it is very, very interesting that an appointee of the federal government.
All right. All right, Professor Kari. Professor Kari, I imagine that this conversation has by no means ended here. It will definitely continue between the governing board and the university authorities beyond this space.
Due process.
All right, Prof, we're totally out of time. We've been talking with...
I'm talking to you. They have sent 40 names to the DSS to clear. It's a process. You cannot jump any stage of this process.
All right,
it's not a photocopy.
All right. We've been talking with Professor Ralph Akinfeleye, former chairman, head of UNILAG Mass Communication Department. He's also representing Africa on the Governing Council of the World Journalism Education Congress and currently on the governing board of University of Abuja. We've also had Professor Abubakar Kari, Dean Student Affairs, University of Abuja, who joined us virtually. Apparently, this is by no means the end of this conversation. I'll be keeping tabs on this matter to see how it turns out and who will eventually get this highly contentious job. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for your time on the program.